Hello and welcome to Anime Style. I am Gary and Reva. By now I've done a couple of episodes on Milgram, so from here I'll assume you're familiar with the premise. If not, check out those other videos, the first of which will be linked at the end and in the description. So, bullying's pretty awful, isn't it? Why do I bring it up? No reason, let's talk about Milgram. A reminder that at time of recording I've only seen trial 1 of the 2 trials that are out, so no spoilers in the comments. I have no training or experience with psychological evaluation, but I do have a degree in creative writing. I tend to focus on specific words used, but the English captions and translations may have errors. I also don't have a perfect understanding of Japanese culture, so please be kind if I misunderstand things. Finally, these are just my theories and opinions. I welcome other takes, but keep it friendly and remember, no Trial 2 spoilers. Today we'll be looking at Prisoners 3 and 4, so content warning. Aside from the fact we're talking about killers, today's episode will contain discussion about bullying, self-harm, and suicide. Prisoner number 3, Futa. Let me tell you his story. He's a university student and a prolific gamer. His favourite seems to be a mobile game or an arcade game, it's sort of seen on both, likely called Dark Triad, but that could also just be like his clan name. But as much as he enjoys gaming, there's something he enjoys more. Justice. Futa loves justice. Futa loves it so much, he's always on the lookout for someone in need of justice. Someone who deserves justice. What kind of upstanding citizen would he be if he didn't give it to them? When he sees someone acting in a way they shouldn't, like, say, some guy who climbed into an ice cream freezer as a joke, he doesn't hesitate. He brings his mob down, who quickly tell the offender he should die. In Futa's mind, he pictures this as a raid on an MMO boss, like in his game, bringing justice to the world. He's the hero. Sometimes there are crimes worse than climbing into a freezer, like sexual harassment. At university, he saw a teacher making unwanted advances on a woman. So he intervened, right? Helped her? Of course not. He did the sensible thing. He brought down the mob on him. He brought justice to the world. Then it gets dicey. He saw a picture of a girl in a hat shop. It's not entirely clear what she was doing. Text implies she was infringing some copyright or trademark, possibly owned by a small business, but in the picture she just appeared to be posing. Whatever she did, Futa brought down the mob on her. Or did he? Unlike the other times, he's the only one shown interacting. Turns out she lived close by. He even worked at her school. He found her house, photographed it, presumably shared it. But he went too far that time. Struck too hard. Finished the job. The girl committed suicide. Did I mention she was in middle school, aged 12 to 15? Frankly, his song and VD are incredibly blatant compared to some of the others. He spends most of his interrogations citing laws, claiming his age makes him superior over the younger S, futilely trying to hit S, we'll come back to that, despite claiming that people who use violence are stupid. He insists he didn't kill anyone, didn't break any laws, but is clearly racked with guilt and or fear. He swears a lot, and the best word to describe him is seething. His voice actor did a really good job. Anyway, all of his bullying was done online via a Twitter stand-in. The people he defeat even have little Twitter birds flying around their heads. His weapon of choice is also a flame sword. He literally flamed them. To be honest, there isn't much more to say. It's quite cut and dry. His targets and even their victims are sort of blotted out. He doesn't see them as people. Even his mob are faceless, online anonymity. The only people with faces are the friends with whom he goes to the arcade. Something I do want to call out. I think he watched the girl commit suicide. Right after defeating her, he's staring up at something and the background changes. I'd say it's likely a street he stood on with the white line being reminiscent of smaller Japanese streets. That would also tie into this large building he's looking at right before the fight. Maybe it's her school, maybe it's where she did it. It's worth mentioning that Futa's S kill does not line up with this. I doubt he would have gone and picked up the body, but maybe this is representative of him accosting the helpless victim. This is one of only 2 S kills that feel more figurative than literal. But that's it. As Futa's analysis was quite short, let's also do Prisoner 4. But beware. We are entering a place where one's perception of reality is warped and twisted by the strings of a teenage girl. Helpless, vulnerable, pitiable. But do I mean her or you? This is the Moo Zone. Why would I give her such an ominous intro? Because Prisoner 4, Moo, is one of the most interesting characters to discuss. Out of all of them, she's the one for whom my perception has risen and fallen the most. This is because I watched the song before the voice drama, and the song is very, very effective. Her story is one of victimhood, relentlessly bullied by at least 3 girls and possibly her class in general. Tormented day after day, physically and psychologically threatened and harmed, isolated, uncared for. Something happening was just a matter of time, represented by the hourglass. Then one day after school, while cleaning the bathrooms in the way Japanese students do, the bullies leave her collapsed. One girl gives her a pitiless look, then walks out, and Moo follows. She chases the girl down as she's walking home, begs for help, gets refused, and the hourglass breaks. Using the box cutter from her bag, she strikes back. In the light of the setting sun, she stabs her classmate multiple times based on her S-kill, and Moo is at peace. This affected me very strongly when I first saw it. Like a lot of people, I was bullied. Never physically, but psychologically from about the age of 8 until I went to uni at 18. I was a guy with an unusual name, nerdy interests, and weird friends. I also flatly refused to acknowledge the bullies, ignoring them completely, but unwittingly making it a prize to get some reaction. I mention this because it meant I was really on Moo's side. Bullying is an absolute scourge, and schools should do more to protect their students from it. But of course, Moo's story is not that simple. A photo on her phone reveals she used to be friends with the bullies. She used to be one of them. It's possible they were using her for her money. Texts between Moo and the bullies mention Moo giving them her spare lipstick, and she states in the VD that her family's rich. Even so, that's not good, but she got a lot of hate. These messages on the board translate to bullying, basically. A friend sent me a blog that translates the text in the Trial 1 songs, and that was vital to understanding Futa, Moo, and a couple of others. That's also linked in the description. But yeah, the messages strongly suggest that Moo was self-harming. There's a picture of a bloodied knife and a quote from Moo. In the song, Moo's trapped in the hourglass with a bunch of school supplies floating at the top of the sand. They're all sharp or pointed, things one could use to harm themselves. They fall and hit her, possibly saying the bullies literally dropped them on her, backed up by the fact they're on the floor around her, but I think it's saying she started using them on herself. The sand trickled down, and they reached her. There are also a couple of hints that she was possibly suicidal. She probably even cried out for help, indicated by the line, "Just one more time before saying goodbye. I'm just kidding, please forget I said that." Then there's this drawing at the end. Hanged or stabbed, which will it be? This could be a threat from the bullies, and I'll come back to the timeline in a minute, or it could be her thoughts. Suicide or murder. She feels she has to do one of them. It can't be denied that she was in a very difficult place. Whether she used to be a bully or not, no one deserves that. So she begged the victim to stop bullying her and then killed her when she refused, right? Not quite. The girl Moo killed was not one of the bullies. After the bullies left Moo lying on the bathroom floor, the victim came out of the stall. She was probably in there the whole time. I don't think the bullies knew. It's possible they were all assigned to the cleaning duty. To remind you, Japanese students clean the school at the end of the day, and between the setting sun and the cleaning supplies, that's what they were doing. But why would she just go into a stall while Moo got bullied? The victim heard everything, saw Moo lying there, then walked away and left her. She then got a fair distance away from the school before Moo caught up, and as Moo watched her leave, it raised the question of why it took her so long to catch up. But she does so, and I don't think she was begging for the bullying to stop. I think she was begging for forgiveness. Forgiveness from an old friend or girlfriend. She cries with the line, "My sorry spells must be wearing off." Forgiveness was not given, so Moo drew her box cutter and killed her. The box cutter she did not have in the bathroom. Unless Moo keeps her box cutter in her pocket at all times, which is unlikely for several reasons, one of which is it's only ever seen with her other stuff, then Moo went to get it. That's why the victim got so far before being caught. Moo made a detour. Back up a sec. Did I say the victim was her girlfriend? Yes, I did, and I have 1.5 bits of evidence to say they were friends, 2 more to say they were dating, and 2 for how they fell out. First, the victim has a face. Not even the bullies have faces, showing the victim is more important. This suggests she isn't just one of the bullies. That's the 0.5 evidence. The one bit is too specific to not be deliberate, as the victim has a fish patch on her bag. Why does that matter? Because in the questions, Moo lists taking care of tropical fish as a hobby. That fish looks pretty tropical to me. They were probably close, and Moo gave her that patch. Okay, maybe they were friends, but girlfriends? Really? Yeah. The first hint is in S's song, clutching a broken heart, the pain's still there after all this time. To whom else could that be referring? A broken heart isn't necessarily romantic, but come on. Still not enough? What about the songline I Love You, used twice? Once when she sees the victim, once when she's reaching for the victim. As for how I think they fell out, this is a bit tenuous, but the only way I can explain the line. I overheard, I found out how much I'm not needed. I reckon she overheard the victim saying something and that drove a wedge. Uncertain, yeah, but she wouldn't need to overhear the bully saying it, and she has nothing but good thoughts about her parents. This is backed up by a question about whether she's apologetic for the person she killed. Her answer, the person who did the wrong thing first should apologize. So she killed her ex-girlfriend because she was being bullied by other people, and that made her happy? I said I'd mention the timeline. It's not really a timeline, but still. There is some inconsistency about how long after the killing she went to Milgram. In her VD, she says she doesn't have a clear memory of what happened after, and before she knew it, she was in Milgram. From her art, apologies about the close-up, we can see she's not wearing her school uniform under the prisoner outfit. That means she at least got home and got changed. Her VD quote implies she was then taken to Milgram, however that happened. But the last shot of the song is her at school after the killing. There are flowers on, presumably, the victim's desk. If this is the case, that would imply the board messages are also from after the killing. It's possible that hanged or stabbed thing is Moo's bullies, implying she could be the next victim. If the bullying hasn't stopped, why is Moo happy? My best guess is she now feels she has that power back. She has a new tool in her arsenal, and it's a box cutter. But that's just speculation. The song is great. If not my favourite of Trial 1, probably the easiest to listen to on repeat. I don't like to use audio from the songs, but there's one bit I have to call out as particularly good. Aside from being really catchy, it's basically going ow, 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 which is sad, but it's so beautifully woven in. Anyway. Okay, so Moo's song somewhat obfuscates her motives for the murder, but isn't that par for the course? Even Futa's cast him as the hero who made a mistake. What makes Moo earn that ominous intro from earlier? That would be her VD. Moo is a master manipulator. Yuno controlled the conversation, Moo controls the room. In her interrogation she cried, made herself seem helpless and vulnerable, begged to go home, didn't understand things S said she'd do anything to get out, but none of it's real. S even calls out at one point how she goes from crying to laughing in about 30 seconds. I'll mention again that I have no training in evaluation, but some of the language she uses is very stilted. I had such a tough time, she said about being bullied. I mean, yeah, she did, but that's not an emotional statement. It reads more like manipulatory language rather than a traumatic revelation. By the nature of voice dramas, there's some telling instead of showing, even showing in the context of a voice drama, but I know these can be very subtle. Then when S says Milgram doesn't use the law's standard for good and evil, that it's essentially up to them, Moo says, what you're saying is pretty difficult to understand and I can't keep up. Say it in a way which will be easier for me to grasp. Again, that's so stilted. Why would she not just say, I don't understand, like Haruka did? Sort of makes me think she's faking her lack of understanding to try and seem more vulnerable. And when S guesses that Moo's murder, would result in penal servitude rather than the death sentence, Moo jumps on it as what they want to do, which is not what S was saying and is something that casts her again as a victim. It is possible that she genuinely doesn't get it, but based on the rest of what she says, the grasp she has on everything else, I don't buy it. Even when she's begging for S to declare her innocent, what should I do for you to forgive me? I'll do anything, then immediately backtracks saying, but nothing painful, embarrassing, or scary, implying being in Milgram itself isn't scary for her. But she acted so scared before. The most telling moment, however, is something unique to her VD. S says they don't know what they think of her yet, and Moo calls attention to that. How S treats everything like it's someone else's business. She quotes S back to them, asking why they treat their own thoughts as someone else's. She says, "Hey, prison guard, when you say I, who are you talking about?" This instantly causes an existential crisis for S, who has amnesia, something they haven't told Moo. S hyperventilates, stumbles back. They are really affected. Jackalope actually has to enter the room and speak with S to calm them down. What's so interesting is the perspective of the VD. As Moo says the line that gets to S, the ambient background music cuts out. This is further embellished in the unofficial VD video, but the ambient sound cutting off is in the original. I'd say it's because the line is hitting S particularly hard, but the voice drama is not from S's perspective. We know that for a fact. We know that from something in this VD. Jackalope entered the room, spoke to S, and left. And neither Moo nor we heard what Jackalope said. Jackalope's voice cannot be heard by anyone other than S. In this one voice drama at a minimum, we are not S's perspective. So why, if we're not S's perspective, did the ambient music cut out? It could be highlighting the lore importance of that statement, but as it doesn't happen in any of the other VDs, even when prisoners are determining the nature of Milgram's supernatural protection, we'll come back to it, I don't think it's a lore thing. My only conclusion is it's to highlight Moo's predatory abilities. She realised S was using distanced language from their knowledge and thoughts, and hit it hard. Then after S recovered from their breakdown, she continued to belittle them, saying they've lost it, looking at them with pitiful eyes, laughing at them. She acted scared and helpless until she found a crack in S's armour. Then she went on the attack, and then she was confident. She stated she'd definitely get home and even spoke arrogantly about the police, those good-for-nothing police trying to catch me. Finally, after the ambient music peters out with the arrival of the music device, she tells S that if she sees anything odd about their judgment, read a guilty verdict, she won't forgive them. It carries the same threatening vibe as earlier. Many Milgram prisoners are difficult or dangerous. Moo's the only one to break S with a single question. Speaking of whom, in my video I mentioned I originally thought S to be a very adept interrogator, until I realised their adapting was really not adapting at all. Then the Futa and Moo interrogations put pay to any inclination that they are, in fact, good at this. S seems to be deliberately petty with Futa, teasing him in response to his aggressive attacks, but I do want to bring up something I don't understand. Yuno told Futa she was beaten in her interrogation, seemingly messing with him. When they hear this, S says she actually did what I told her to. What do they mean there? Unless I missed something, S just told Yuno to be herself. Based on their conversation, I can't see how her messing with Futa is proof of her now being herself. If anyone can explain, I'd appreciate it. But the real thing S did that showed their amateurism and pettiness was something they said to Moo. While explaining how Milgram works, that it ultimately comes down to S's decision, they said they might forgive her just because she's beautiful, or might not forgive her for the same reason. Why the hell did they say that? Think about it. S is there to judge their crimes. Yeah, they're technically allowed to make their verdict based on anything, but why would they outright say, your crimes might not matter, I might just choose what I like? This is the opposite of what they told Yuno. And saying that to Moo? She's already acting the victim, all helpless and vulnerable. Why not only make a direct reference to her attractiveness, but imply they'll judge her based on that? What possible outcome could that have, other than making S seem arbitrary and feeding into Moo's self-victimization? Hell, it could be sexual harassment. And what was the result? Moo outright stated that she'd be the kind of person S likes. S said, your crimes don't matter, I might be arbitrary. Moo said, that sounds great, I'm going to manipulate and lie to you. Bonkers. As for Milgram itself, when Futa attacked S, we got to see its supernatural protection in action. It took the form of an invisible wall. This protection is something Jackalope told S about, but didn't go into detail. This is important as it'll come up later, so I just wanted to mention it. Last thing on S is a line they use when talking to Moo about her potential future if she's released from Milgram and faces justice in the real world. Aside from this implying Moo is in fact alive, something Jackalope previously hinted at when he was being creepy, S says, according to the law which you lot use. This could be referring to Japanese people, as they're talking about Japanese law, or it could be referring to humans. Maybe because of their amnesia, they don't see themselves as a worldly entity. I don't know, just something I noticed. 2 verdicts today, starting with Futa. The community voted 55% in favour of guilty. Like typical keyboard warriors, he and his mob descended on people and told them to die regardless of what they did. You climbed into a freezer, you should die then. I know the type. I've been the target before. Never by a mob, but people have commented KYS over Pokesins. One guy subscribed and went on to every single new video I posted just to comment a single obscene word before I worked out how to block him. They're deplorable people hiding behind their self-righteousness and anonymity. That said, I'm not sure how to rule on him. He's certainly not innocent, but I'm not sure he's guilty of killing her. He didn't intend to. But he consistently acted with oblivious certainty that he was in the right, regardless of how minor their crimes were. To be honest, it may actually count as a depraved heart murder. I think I've talked myself into it. I think Futa is guilty. Then there's Moo. The community voted 50-50 with a 0.3% margin for innocent. This is the closest result in Trial 1. She was horrifically bullied by former friends, likely engaging in self-harm and having suicidal thoughts. It can be very difficult to reach out to others, and there's evidence she gave cries for help. But when it all became too much, she committed murder, justifying it as her only way to escape. But she didn't kill one of the bullies. She killed potentially her ex-girlfriend in an act that didn't stop the bullying, but made her more dangerous. She also likely made a detour before solely to grab the murder weapon. It was probably premeditated. She is incredibly manipulative, seizing on any weakness without hesitation, and will do whatever she needs to get what she wants, as long as it's something she's okay with doing. She is completely unrepentant for her murder, even saying the victim should have apologized first. Moo is definitely guilty. A long one today. Moo should have got her own, but Futa's was so short, and I want to do them in order. There is an internal timeline, they are in chronological order. I'll admit, I was looking forward to Moo's. All Milgram voice dramas, songs, and interrogations are available entirely free, linked in the description. Futa's Bring It On and Moo's After Pain are among the best songs of Trial 1. Highly recommend. Make sure you subscribe for my videos on the rest of Trials 1 and 2, and leave your thoughts, opinions, and takes in the comments below. Just remember, be polite, and no Trial 2 spoilers. I look forward to hearing what you think. Thank you very much for watching, please consider pledging to my Patreon linked in the description, and I will catch you later.